consideration to be here today. Now, I know that my topic, death and dying, is not what everybody wants to talk about, so I will try to keep it light. But Joe sort of gave me a blank sheet and said you can talk about anything you like. So I thought I would actually start with talking about the question I get asked the most. And what I get asked more than anything, everywhere I go, people say, how do you get into Mary Potter? And it's because we just don't really tell people how this all happens. So they think it happens organically or something, I don't know, or it's a secret society. It isn't. It's quite easy to do, so I'm going to start with that. But before I do, I just wanted to explain terminology. When I refer to the words palliative care, I just wanted to tell you what that actually means, because I talk it as though it's everybody knows, when in fact a lot of people don't know what palliative care actually is. So palliative care is for someone who's got a terminal illness. You have to have a terminal illness: cancer, heart disease, kidney, MND, you name it, there's a whole long list. You have to have a terminal illness, and dementia is on that list. And then it's the way that you're cared for when you have those illnesses. So a palliative care consultant or a nurse will look for relieving pain, which is first and foremost, because you have no quality of life if you're in pain. They actually plan your future medical appointments and what treatment you're still going to have, because we can have someone who's palliative for a long time. Someone can get pancreatic cancer and they have hardly any palliative care because they die very quickly. So it can be a long period of time, so therefore there still might be treatment going on while that you're getting closer to the end. It can be the emotional and physical, it can be all the support you need, spiritual, all of those sorts of things all come into palliative care. Grief support is a part of it, and also respite for your family or someone in your family who needs to have a break from the person who's got the illness. Now, hospice care is all those things but on steroids, because we do not only all of those things, but we actually add in all of the beautiful, warm, caring things which are very individual to that person. And so we're not interested in medical, we're actually interested in keeping people comfortable and helping them make the most of the time they have left. That's what we do in the hospice. So, there are only 2 hospices in Adelaide. I don't know if you know that. There are about 8,500 people diagnosed with a terminal illness every year in South Australia, and yet we only have 2 hospices. One is the Laurel Hospice in the Flinders Hospital. That is a fully public hospice, so the SA Health pick up the tab for that, and they are assisted by the Hospital Research Foundation. So all of your $100 tickets that you've been buying, you've been helping people in hospice care. The other hospice is the one I'm associated with, which is the Mary Potter Hospice, located just up the road in Calgary North Adelaide Hospital, and it is a fully private hospice. So to be able to come into Mary Potter, you have to have 2 things. You need to have a terminal illness and you have to have health insurance or the ability to pay. So that's what you need. Now, why do we only have 2 hospices in Adelaide? And that's because there's no money in it. It's a very, very expensive type of care. It is an amazing care which everybody should be entitled to, but unfortunately it's a very person-to-person care, very hands-on. Like a nurse will only have 3 patients to look after in a hospice because it's so intense. So therefore it is very, very labour intensive, so it costs a lot of money, and that's why nobody else is opening hospice at all. Which is a bit sad. So if it wasn't for the Hospital Research Foundation helping Laurel with all the extras that they do there, and the foundation I work for helping Mary Potter, I'm pretty sure Mary Potter would close, and that would be a shame because they have been providing fantastic end-of-life care for well over 50 years. So how do you get into Mary Potter? I said, you have to have a terminal illness, you have to have health insurance, but it is a doctor-to-doctor relationship. So the oncologist who's treating your mum or your friend or whoever it might be would actually ring the hospice, speak to the hospice doctor, and they would talk turkey on all things like how is the pain going, where is your mum or your sister, whoever it is, where are they at with the support they can get at home, are they well looked after, do they need extra support. They would have this conversation, and then they would work out the timing on when your loved one would come into Mary Potter. Now, the problem that we have is a lot of doctors will not refer people to Mary Potter. I hope there's no doctors in this room, is there? I'm going to offend somebody, but they don't. They go, you're all right, you're okay here in Lyle Mac, you're okay here in the Ra, you're okay here in Ashford, you don't need to move, Mum's fine. And it's really, I want everybody to know, and I want to shout from the rooftops, that it is actually your right to send someone of you that you love to Mary Potter. If that's their wish, that they want to finish their days in Mary Potter, you can actually just stomp up and down and say, this is what you want. Because we don't know who your loved one is. We don't know that they want to come to us for their end-of-life care. And so you make a nuisance of yourself, and that person will get transferred in. Now, the hospital, so Calvary North Adelaide Hospital, a few years ago, back in 2017, they've realised for quite a few decades actually, that the number of people needing palliative care is growing and growing and growing, and we don't have the resources to care for these people. So they introduced a home care service. So you probably haven't heard of it, but it's the Calvary Palliative Home Care Service, and what they do is they have Mary Potter nurses actually care for you at home. And that's not a 24/7 service, it's where they'll come to the home, and that in the early part of your palliative journey, or your husband's or whoever's, they might come only once a month, then they start coming once a fortnight, then they start coming once a week until it gets to the pointy end. The home care service is about providing like a hospice, like Mary Potter at home, but it's only for an hour or two a day, so it's not like you've got 24/7 care. But the beautiful thing about it is that it is what I call the golden ticket into Mary Potter Hospice. You get into that service, you are guaranteed a bed, because they work together and the doctors will talk to each other and go, I've got Mrs. Smith here, she's about another week away before she has to come in, and they will make sure that when Mr. Brown dies in the hospice, the bed's ready for her to come in. So if that's something you really want to do, make sure you get in the home care service, all fully covered by private health insurance, there's no out of pocket, but it's a beautiful service to get involved in. Now, I did say before about palliative care, the home care people, sometimes people leave it too late to get the home care people involved. Still can get into Mary Potter, but the quality of life, I believe, is not where it should be. Because some doctors, they are, here I'm going to offend someone, but they're about prolonging life. That's what they do. That's what is ingrained in them, that's what they want to do, that's how they're educated, everything. They're not about letting go and going, it's time to just enjoy the time you've got left. So I just wanted to share with you a story about Kevin. Kevin is the nurse practitioner, one of the nurse practitioners in the hospice, and he told me a story not long after I'd started at Mary Potter, and he had a patient come in and he had a feeding tube. He had stomach cancer. And this particular, he went in to see him, he could tell straight away this patient was very depressed. He was only 43 years old. He had a family, teenage children, you know, he was depressed, rightfully so. And so Kevin said, what can I do for you today to make things better for you? And he said, well, you can't help me. He said, because I've got this stupid tube in my stomach, I can't eat. I miss eating. I miss eating with the family, having meals with my children. It means the world to me. I might as well be dead. So that was his mental state. And Kevin said, I can take that tube out of your stomach right now and you can have something to eat. And he said, but aren't I going to die? And he said, well, yes, you're going to die anyway, but it's all that tube is doing is prolonging your life. So his quality of life was very poor, all because of this contraction which is meant to last. So he said to him, how long, So he's going, how long? Oh, you're a doctor, aren't you? Sorry, don't mean to offend you. So how long will I have if I take the tube? If you take the tube out? He said, I can't tell you. That's sort of $1 million question. He said, but I think you'll last about a week and a half longer. And he says, take it out right now. So that tube came out, and that fella, so I got a phone call from Kevin into the foundation office, because we do all lovely, beautiful things for patients of whatever they need. And he phoned me and he said, I've got a patient here, he's just had the tube out. His first request for something to eat is, and wait for it, it was a Big Mac, a McDonald's Big Mac. Wouldn't have been my choice, but that's what he wanted. But he went on to live another 3.5 weeks. 3 of those weeks he was eating. And his wife brought in home cooking, and he ate with the children for dinner, and it was just beautiful. And he wouldn't have had that experience if it wasn't for the palliative nurse who identified that it was about quality of life, not length of life. So we do so much to help families like that, running out and get Big Macs, although we usually have them delivered these days. There was no DoorDash or anything back then. And so last year we had the comedy night, which was spoken about before, and I got up and spoke about the biography program, which gives patients the ability to write out their memoirs, to might have something they want read out at the funeral, or whatever it is that they want to do. And this year, so I hope as many of you can come along, because I'm going to be talking about the art therapy program. So I thought, given my time is limited and you all have to go, I won't rabbit on too much longer, but I thought I would just speak about one of the things that I love, which is like buying Big Macs, is the individual and meaningful care we can provide to patients. And you just won't get that anywhere else. My team in my office, there's 6 of us, and sometimes we're all run ragged to be out doing something for a patient, because we have multiple patients, as you can imagine, and we also extend it to the home care service. So this also happens when you're at home. We can do nice things for people. We are not Make-A-Wish Foundation, so we don't send people to Disneyland or, have trips around the world or anything like that. Sometimes it's a very simple thing. You can have the gentleman who loves reading the Sydney Morning Herald, so we make sure that paper is delivered every day. The drinks trolley is very popular in the hospice every afternoon. So it's simple things that we can do, but sometimes we do something that's a little bit more complicated, but on the whole, they're pretty simple things. Like we had one family who Christmas is a very big deal in their family. The dad is the matriarch of the family. He would dress up as Santa and do all these things. And of course, he wasn't going to make it to Christmas. So we had an early Christmas gathering for that family. So he could dress up as Santa and do all those things. So it's whatever is meaningful to that patient. And this is all funded by you guys. It's the community's paying for it. So I wanted to finish today with just telling you 2 quick stories. One is very recent, and one happened quite a few years ago, to give you an idea of the breadth of some of the things we do. So on Friday last week, we actually had a baby shower for a patient who is in maternity. She is 30 years old and dying of breast cancer. And so the counsellor said, wouldn't it be great to put on a baby shower, just so for a year, for 1 or 2 hours, she could be normal and be like every other mother. And so we said, yes, we'll do it. It's whether she wanted to do it. She went and spoke to the patient. She was delighted. And I wasn't there, but they had the best fun. We actually had the masseuse go in and gave everybody massage. We had the beautician went in, she did her makeup, did her nails, all those sorts of things. And she had presents and all that. It was just 2 hours where she forgot that she was actually dying of cancer. So we do things like that. The other one that I want to talk to you about is Helen, who was a patient about 7 years ago. And about a week after she died, her son comes bowling over to my office and says, I want to speak to someone, and I want to speak to someone now. I thought, oh no, what have we done? He was almost insistent. Anyway, he just said, I want to tell you how the work that you do, what a difference it made in my mother's life, but not so much her, he said, in my life. Because what you did was so special. And what happened to him, his mother is a Greek lady, very, very well dressed, beautifully manicured, not like me, I bite my nails. She had beautiful nails, always well dressed, beautiful. And of course she was at the end of her life. She only had a day or two to go. And so she was in phase 4, which is when you become non-communicative, you're asleep all the time, no reaction, all that sort of thing. And he was sitting with her, and the beautician came into the room and said, hello, I'm Rose. Is there something I can do to help your mother? And he said, and she told him what she does. And he said, well, actually, have a look at this photo. And they had a photo of her husband and her many, many years ago. And it was there. Oh, she was just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And she could see that she was a very well-dressed, very proud woman. And he said she never went out the house without lipstick on, her nails done, everything just so perfect. And he said, Mum's got bed hair, like, you know, it was all messy. And that she had terrible nails. She'd come from the Ra, no one had bothered to remove it. It was all chipped and horrible, and it was just terrible. And he said, could you remove her nail polish and she said, well, why don't we put nail polish back? Have it like your mum would have it. So she said, can I borrow the photo from you for a few minutes? And I'll be right back. So she went back to where all her beautician stuff is, and she got a lipstick and nail polish that was the same colour as what she was wearing, or very close to it. And then she came back, and the whole time she's speaking to Helen, Helen, this is what I'm going to be doing now, and Helen, I'm doing your left hand now, and your right hand, and all that sort of thing. He was so touched with the way she was respectful to her mum, his mum. And so then she put the lipstick on, and she left the lipstick, fixed her hair, and left the stuff with him so that they could top up her lipstick, and if there was a chip, they could do something about that. But as soon as he was about to say thank you to Rose, his mother opened her eyes, and she looked at her hands and smiled. And then she put it down, and that was the last interaction he had with his mum. And he said, I'll never, ever forget. So never think that they can't hear what's going on just because they look like they're asleep, because they actually can hear you. Now, if after today you come across somebody who's having problems, palliative care or whatever it might be, and you go, that woman at Rotary, what on earth did she say? Because I've forgotten all of that. I can remember the nails, but I can't remember anything else. If you just ring the Mary Potter Foundation and ask to speak to the ED or speak to someone in Mary Potter Hospice, we will set you straight. You don't have to remember anything from today at all. We are here to help. We want as many people to get really good care at the end as we possibly can. So that's it. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. I can see a few teary eyes in the place. Does anyone have any questions?
No, it's not working. It doesn't matter. I don't need it. I'm going to start because I've got the floor for a moment. I've actually known Lorna for quite a few years now, and very aware of her work. And I've now had 4 people pass away or die in Mary Potter Hospice. Most recently, my dearest friend in the world, back in January of last year. So I can attest that everything that Lorna is saying is absolutely accurate. And it didn't matter what we asked for, it was provided. Now, we weren't there for very long, we only had a few days, but I will never forget Annie's last meal, which was a pizza with her family. And when she slipped into that phase 4, flowers came, and they made sure that the flowers were her favourite colour. It's the little things, it really is the little things. And the quilt, there's always a quilt that are made by volunteers. Again, the quilt had her favourite colours in it, which was then passed on to her family. And when she did die, we all stayed, and we were offered lunch. We could have had anything we wanted, as it turned out. We didn't, but we could have had anything we wanted. And that respect and dedication really is amazing. It doesn't matter if you're there for 24 hours or and some of the stories that Lorna has told us over the years are truly amazing. So I really want to endorse what Lorna has said from a personal perspective. And it looks like someone else might have a question, but this doesn't appear to be.
Wasn't trying to cut it short.
No, that's right. Because you know me, I'll talk forever. So you might just have to stand up, Barry. Did you have something you wanted? Yeah, question? No, I don't want this. Oh, no, it's not working. I'll try the other one.
Here's something to talk anyway.
I did. Cheeky. Did or just yes? No. Never. Small ring.
Good with that, okay. Good talk, by the way, on the subject that's not all that easy. My wife and I are in the process of doing what a number of our friends are doing, and that is starting, and we're just starting, to set up our home so that we can remain for our final 25 years. I'm 77. I kind of get the impression there's a move like that because there's just aren't enough Mary Potter type institutions. So is that the impression you get as well?
Yes, that's right. Yes. So Calvary has they have the contract with SA Health for the home care, which is the public system, and then they have the private one. So therefore, you can get good care right up to the time if you need to go to Mary Potter. Some people prefer to die at home, and they'll facilitate that. The only thing that they don't do is voluntary assisted dying. If someone does come forward and says that that's what they want, then they transition them to Laurel Hospice, who will do that. So it's all taken care of. You don't have to worry about it. Yeah.
Given the increase in need, do you think that's, are you advocating, I suppose, government for more hospice beds, hospice care? What are you doing around that space?
So they're trying to increase the size of the home care service because they know that that is going to be secret for Calvary. There's no advocating for any more hospice beds. The hospitals, the government are not interested in hospice care. They actually just put in palliative wards in all the major hospitals. But a palliative ward is just it's any other ward. It's not actually anything special. So, you know, but you will have palliative specialist people caring for you, which is good. So they are well aware of it. They have a palliative care roadmap, which is a 10-year roadmap that they've got. They're trying to implement bit by bit because they realise that baby boomers like me, we're going to choke up the system, and they need to do something about it now. So they are doing that, but they are putting palliative wings in all of the hospitals so that there'll be somewhere for you to go. But for Calvary, they've identified having the home Mary Potter system working. The health insurers have asked Calvary to expand the service so they can have 3 times the capacity of what they're doing now. So they would see between 300 to 400 patients a year, whereas they actually want that to be well over 1,000, 1,200 a year. So it's in the works, but it just takes a long time. And because palliative trained staff are quite rare, they've got to do that as well. So they've actually got to train up these people and get more nurse practitioners. So it's pressure on the health system to get the right people in the right jobs too. So it's a bit of a mess, but they are aware of it's a big problem and they're trying to resolve it. Yeah.
How are we going to try any more questions? One more question, if anybody's got one.
I want to say thank you again, and we have a little gift for you. So it's our centenary year, and we've got 2 centenary history books that have been created by 2 of our members. So this is a gift for you. If anybody would like to just thank Lorna for hers.